Here's a really cool trick for always feeling like the most secure person in the room, including at the dinner table when you're on a date. So first off, you need to identify the disciplines that feed your ego. In other words, what do you think makes a man, for example, like a superhero? Or if it's a woman, like what do you think makes a queen, right? Like what goes into that? For example, if I say I like Joe Rogan, well, because why is Joe Rogan cool? It's because, he's a cool guy. He's down to earth. He can talk to anybody. He's a student of the world, and he does jujitsu, so he's tough. And there's all these good things about Joe Rogan. Now, if I identify those things about Joe Rogan, and yet I don't train jujitsu, or I'm not a student of the world, or I'm not down to earth, then that's instructive for me to start putting time into these disciplines so that way I see myself the same way I see Joe Rogan. But if I look at a Joe Rogan and I say, hey, this guy's cool because he does jujitsu, and I spend all this time becoming a great jujitsu person, what happens if I go to jujitsu class and yet there are people there that are cooler than me, tougher than me, etc.? I'm going to feel, substandard, right? And this is where the other trick comes to play, which is that you basically diversify the disciplines that you invest in, so that way in any circumstance that you go into, you're going to feel like the coolest person in the room. So if I go out in public, the average person isn't trained. If I do jujitsu, I feel like I can handle myself physically anywhere I go. And in my brain, in my little brain, at least in my world, that I feel like the coolest guy anywhere I go. Now, likewise, if I go to jujitsu and there's all these people there that are tougher than me and they've been training longer, they're stronger than me or whatever, and I can't feel like the coolest person in the room because I'm not the toughest guy in that scenario, I'm going to get thrown off. And now all of a sudden, I can't be this 24/7 congruent man that's always on top of his shit, because when I go to jiu-jitsu, I get triggered because I'm not the toughest person there, because my ego is only rooted in martial arts. So you have to diversify what your ego is rooted in, okay? So for example, I've got the jiu-jitsu thing, but at the same time, I've got the good with girls thing. I put a lot of time into understanding charisma and attraction, all these things, and having experiences with women, and being that guy that can be the guy to carry the room or have the funny conversation or whatever, okay? And that makes me feel good. For example, if I go to jiu-jitsu, and if I'm out in public, the fact that I've got jiu-jitsu skills, maybe there's somebody that's funnier than me out at the restaurant or whatever, then I can feel secure there, because of this other thing that I can do. So think about the disciplines that are important to you. What do you value? Become good in more than one. And no matter where you go, you will feel like the king of that environment or the queen of that environment, especially out on a date. Drop your thoughts in the comments and follow me for more dating and relationships advice.